Hello and welcome to the brand new B2B Power Hour with your host, Nicholas Thickett.
And I'm your other host.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm just
Morning,
the other
Morgan.
guy that dragged in this morning. I rolled out of bed and I was like, hey, can I hack into this live stream? No, I'm your other host, Morgan Smith. Welcome. Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited. I talked about this topic a little bit earlier in the week, and I have been getting nonstop phone calls, emails, and messages about it.
It's a
So,
controversial topic. I, I,
uh,
I mean, at a headline level, I think it's an attention grabber and it's a controversial topic about where and how sales should intervene in the sales process, or more, what sales or the sales team's role is in the sales process, and how it gets bundled in with your pricing strategy and your marketing strategy. And when I first heard this topic, I was also excited, knowing how controversial it could be among your many sales friends. And at first thought, one of the things that first came to mind, and what I think at least we're going to address, is how marketing teams can be more effective and better designed, and the goals for those marketing teams can be better designed to support the sales process, especially in this new world we're in where so much is digital and online, and that has only been accelerated because of the pandemic, and we see it everywhere. And I was really excited for this topic because at least I thought the direction you might take it was, how do we build more effective marketing organizations to support the sales cycle? Is that basically where you're going to take it, or am I totally off the mark?
yeah, that and some more. And it's funny, I said a little while back, and we had discussed this quite a bit of detail, and it was more of a guess back when I originally said it. Marketing sells, sales leads and prescribes, and branding is loyalty.
Mm,
The way people want to buy has changed, and it's not going to go back. And COVID was that accelerator that forced people out of their comfort zone, and everybody is operating like they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Morgan, when you want to go and buy a new mic, when you want to buy a new webcam, when you want to go and buy the latest, greatest headphones,
it's
do you
one
walk into
click.
a store?
It's one click.
But
I
do you
mean, come
walk into
on.
a
It's Amazon. It's one click. Click, done, right
Yeah,
to my door.
but what do you do before that?
I mean, I do research, of course,
Yeah,
especially if
where?
it's a online high value purchase. Look at blogs that are out there. I'm definitely an old school Consumer Reports guy sometimes, although I don't know if the quality of their stuff is up to snuff anymore. But I do my research, and I also look at a lot of customer reviews when buying some sort of equipment. Amazon's great for that, of course. Even if you don't buy it through Amazon, you can always usually find some of the product and get get reviews on it. So it's all online, and that's like 90% of the journey, honestly.
Yeah, and a lot of B2B companies say it's too complex, that they can
Right.
never just sell online. So they default to salespeople. But the thing that I've noticed is, even when I was in mergers and acquisitions and we were buying and selling companies, we did not operate at a certain transaction level because the amount of work required was the same for larger transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not in the customer's benefit to work with us because we weren't cost effective to them. They would not get the best value from us.
That's an interesting observation.
And so now we take that back to maybe what the CFO would argue with me is, okay, so on average, say it takes 3 to 5 meetings, right, to go and close something under 50,000. And you got a technical expert, you got the salesperson. That's just two people. Let's say they're $250 an hour. Your average sale that a lot of these companies I'm talking to is 2,500 to 5,000.
Mm.
So what happens if that sales cycle is 6 months long? They have a net 90 pay, and they spent $250 to $1,000 just on meetings. That's a crazy cost of acquisition,
Yeah.
and they haven't even fulfilled the promise that they made.
Yeah. I mean, that's a quick way to scale with failure. There's no way around that. Yeah, I mean, I feel sales salaries are often maybe not hidden, but by the leaders and clients that I talk with are often ignored as a part of the acquisition cost of customers because they're sort of built-in expenses to the business. When in reality, if it takes your salesperson 20 hours to close a deal and you average out their hourly rate, I mean, that should be, in my opinion, added on top of whatever the cost of acquisition is incurred elsewhere, especially from the marketing side, because that is a cost of acquisition.
But it's never recognized. But the funny part is the cost of acquisition is always attributed to marketing.
So true.
So why not sales?
So true. It's probably why we came up with that. What's that term? Marketing influenced revenue.
Yeah.
Why? Like, first of all, I don't think anybody outside marketing cares about marketing influenced revenue. I think it's our little flag in the ground that we get to say, hey, we helped with this revenue piece. But I think it's the same thing where a lot of the sort of lead and client cost gets blended in and confused at the marketing team level, when in reality it spans the entire organization. Especially if, to your point, you're selling something that's quote unquote complex, you're going to have more than just a marketing person or an advertiser plus a salesperson plus your technical person and maybe even an account executive involved. And when you add up
Or
all of that
lawyers
time,
yeah.
oh man, it gets expensive is
So
what
how
it
long
gets.
do you have and how long do you have to hold that customer before you recoup costs? So now how do you invest in the company to grow sustainably when you can't even sell effectively?
Yeah, especially if you're investing all that time into a $10,000 sale. I mean, you probably spend $10,000 worth of people's time and the marketing cost of acquisition to get that sale, and you're going to lose money.
And the icing on the cake is it's not how people want to buy. So let me tell you a story.
Okay.
So I was thinking, I'd really like to go and upgrade my wardrobe. We'll leave my office for another time, but I want to upgrade my wardrobe. And I'm going to go to a store. And I'm like, well, I really like, let's say, Tom Ford suits, just for funsies. So I go to the store. I figure out where I can buy it by some Google search, or I talk to a friend, or I go on LinkedIn, or I go to a Slack channel, and I start doing my research. None of the marketing from that company has kicked in. Now I go to the store. So I find them. I walk in, the salesperson greets me. They say hello. If I don't have a specific question for them, or I'm not ready to buy, there is absolutely no reason for me to talk to them.
Right.
So I move on because now they're approachable, but I move on and I start doing my market research in their store. I walk over to my place. I'm going through. Now I'm going to do one of two things. Well, maybe three if you want to throw in another one, but I'm either going to go and ask a question, a technical question that gets me over that hump of buying. I'm going to buy or I'm going to leave.
Right.
What sales process in B2B mimics that? How many companies
So
do we come across that don't even have a ability to buy on their website?
Oh, I mean, so many, Nick. We both know.
But it's complex, don't you know?
Right, and that's an excuse to hide behind.
I know many companies that have scaled pricing that still can sell online. Look at Amazon. They have a robust offering. This is the biggest struggle we're going through right now is we're not aligning the way that people want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the Gartner research, but they actually pointed out that it was over 60 or 70% of B2B buyers would rather go and have a self-service digital portal or the ability to have a virtual connection with a salesperson when they need it.
And here we are, or here are a lot of companies who are B2B clients who force the salesperson into the sale, right? Because they don't have the systems, the modern portals, the investment that it takes in their brand and their marketing systems to match buyers' expectations, and instead stay with the way things have always been done, which is here's a salesperson, talk to the sales guy, which is hardly effective.
And that's the greatest competition right now is that we're battling the way it's always been done, but the way that it's always been done is getting less and less effective. I'm talking to sales teams right now that are dialing over 100 people a day with a less than 1% connect rate. I'm having people that are emailing 100 plus emails a day with a less than a 10% open rate. And then you talk to buyers and they're like, yeah, I hate when somebody's cold calling me and they haven't done their research. I hate when somebody sends me a generic email that isn't tailored to my company. They're not saving me time. They're not providing me value. They're not getting me closer to the solution. They're just pissing me off and driving me away and scorching the earth behind them. And this is why, if we do not have a threshold for salespeople, this is the scenario I like to go and ask people. So what if you could not talk to your customer? Go back to the start of COVID. You have no ability because everything you have is based on in-person.
Right. In-person events, in-person calls or meetings.
Yeah. So
at the very least, a phone call. Right.
The thing is, that phone call is not how they buy.
Right.
That might be the final point where they go and follow through with the transaction. But this is where it's starting to get frustrating because these are where companies are failing. They're too focused on the short term and sabotaging the long term. Yes, you have to balance them, but if you overinvest in the short term and have nothing in the long term, you are not going to change the way that buyers want to buy, taking advantage of this movement and getting ahead of it. Because look at the people that are running podcasts. Look at the people that are running Slack channels. Look at the people that are active in these different groups, educating and becoming that trusted source. They're not going to kill it today, maybe not even tomorrow, but you look at the ones that started this a year to 18 months ago, and they have huge LinkedIn followings. They have a solid qualified pipeline. They are not hurting for business, and they are increasing their prices, and they're also working on their e-commerce, their digital first solutions, because they know that that is the way that they're going to win, and it's working.
Right. And I mean, what just came to mind is what I always talk about, the 3 core elements of a brand, right? Trust, value, advantage. So they have to trust you to buy from you. If you're some snake oil salesman, they're not going to buy. Or some snake oil company, they're not going to buy from you. Or worse, they buy from you once, and then it turns out that you can't deliver on your promises. Your product isn't as good as what you said it was, and so then they don't buy from you again, and that also hurts your brand. So trust, right? Value is you're solving a specific problem that your customers have. So you need to know that problem, and you need to build for that problem. And certainly part of the buying experience is the value part of your brand. If you're not able to provide or match the expectations of your prospects in the buying experience, they don't think that you're a valuable company or a valuable brand for them. They're going to go elsewhere. They're going to go to a competition that does have that together. And if none of your competition
to them,
right, that speaks to
them. Read their website and they're like, "Oh my God, like they deal with me specifically. They get me."
Yeah. And if none of your competition has a digital first buying experience, that fuels or could fuel your advantage, right? The third element of your brand, which is what makes you distinct from your competition. Now, everybody likes to throw around a unique selling proposition, unique value proposition. Honestly, if you're selling a product, it's probably your brand story, unless you're UVP or USP. But at the end of the day, you have to deliver some sort of advantage. You have to be different and unique in a meaningful way to your prospects for them to understand and connect with your brand. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to lose out to brands that are doing it. So to your point, the brands that invest in that cycle early, they do the promotional work that doesn't have a direct ROI, that doesn't generate direct customers from their marketing efforts. And instead, they're simply promoting the brand, they're building trust, they're delivering value, they're demonstrating their advantage for the long run, and building the systems to support that, to the point of today's conversation, are going to just kick some ass. Honestly, that's my prediction. Any brand that does that is just going to kick some ass right now.
And we've all heard the term "start with the end in mind."
Of course.
So and this has been kind of the fun thing that I've been doing for my research and fueling all of this, the assessments I've been doing, is what is the end that most companies assume is the end?
The first sale.
No. You
Oh,
would
really?
think. You would
Really?
think.
Okay. I get to learn this morning.
So take a step back.
Yeah.
So if they are book a meeting first,
Mm.
what is their end result?
Book a meeting,
All
probably.
their marketing is around is book a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They don't actually nurture conversations. They don't earn trust by using content, being referable, having a great product that sells itself. Like, they're not focusing on the fundamentals. It seems so ridiculous becoming a salesperson looking at marketing, because marketing is now starting to take on and lead the charge. The reason that marketers need salespeople is because we are picking up the slack. Marketing is on the defensive, and they're trying to go and hold market share, but they're not trying to be on the offensive and leading the charge to go and keep up with what buyers want. And this is a huge gap that's not only stopping you from making more money, but hitting your quotas and having sustainable growth for the future.
Totally. Well, in defense, when you play defense, you're what I see on marketing teams that play defense is they're sort of like they're sort of the last piece of the pie. It's like you're trying to assemble a pie and you have 7/8 of the pie. And now you're like, we got to hit our quota. We have to hit our quota. So what do? You take the eighth piece of the pie and you shove it in there. And that's marketing. That's usually when marketing plays defense, that's how marketing works. And that means that they're incentivized to hit a particular metric or a particular measurable as a part of playing defense. And oftentimes it's just MQLs, which are not that useful. And even if you have a modernized marketing infrastructure, the fact that you're playing defense in the first place indicates to me that all of your other marketing activities that's promoting your brand for the long haul either aren't spun up yet. So if you're doing it, congrats, or you're not doing it in the first place, which is more than likely in my experience.
The other thing that I'm seeing is kind of this growing trend is, yeah, of course, they don't know their audience. So they have these generalized pages with no rhyme and rhythm to how they connect. So the experience isn't written out. They didn't start with the end in mind. And the end should be, they should be purchasing unless they have a question or unless they need a prescription. It should be packaged and so simple that they can walk all the way through and have the ability to educate themselves through you being a good source of information. But the other one is, there's actually competition amongst their internal products and services, which I see all the time. They're like, well, what's the advantage between product A, B, and C? Well, I'm not sure. It really depends on the customer. Okay, what is your criteria? Well, why is it on your website?
Yeah.
There's no value in your yes if you can't state your no.
That reminds me of one of the fundamentals of pricing strategy, which is packaging. And to your earlier example, actually, it's a perfect example, is a suit tailor or a suit seller. So stepping back from this, let's say, complex B2B sales process, if we think of the suit tailor, the suit shop could just sell you a jacket, a pair of pants, a shirt, 2 ties, pair of shoes, some socks, and a pocket handkerchief all separately. And so when you come into the store, the salesperson has to sell you on each individual piece of the suit. Do you need a jacket? Oh, you do? Well, we have these 3 different kinds of selections of jackets, right? This is hiding behind complexity. So we have these 3 different kinds of jackets. Then you come to the pants and you say, well, if you want this jacket, we also have these 4 matching pants that you could select from. And then each step of the process, you have to sell them on the fact that, yes, you need a jacket. Yes, you need pants. Yes, you need a shirt. Instead, the easiest way to make sure that you sell more suits is just to package them together. It is
why they have mannequins in the...
It is the most fundamental of pricing strategy, is to package. So when the customer comes, they don't have to decide on whether they want the jacket and the pants. They decide whether they want the suit.
And that's why I picked the clothing example, is why do they have mannequins up?
Because
they're use cases.
Exactly.
And so when you're walking in, you're like, oh, I love that outfit, or I like how that comes together, but I just want to change this. That's not complicated. It's a scenario, it's a use case. that is where these case studies really start to come in, because they know where they're going. And this is where, too, I could pick out my full suit. The complexity comes after the transaction, where I get it tailored to me. But I bought
Spot
a
on.
suit.
Well, and what is interesting, what I hear from clients when I bring up this sort of example is resistance to the idea that you should package in the first place. And that, oh, but what about all of the money we could make from selling the jacket, the pants, the shirts, the shoes all separately, right? Because usually if you sell each part of your product or your service separately, you could make more money. The problem always is that not everyone buys all of the things together. And more people may walk out of the store than buy in the first place. So packaging simplifies the buying experience, and you can increase your average dollar per sale, even if your total sale amount from every package isn't as high as selling each individual component separately. But packaging, like the point of packaging is so you can simplify the buying experience. That way somebody can walk into your store or, log on to your online portal or whatever and say yes or no. And now there's tension. Now that it's like, do you want this? We made this for you. It's an all-in-one, or this is the package we know you want, versus the buyer coming to your site and going, which one of these 30 configurations do I want? And that is where the old way is, well, if you can't decide, talk to a salesperson. And that just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Or if I can't differentiate, how much does it cost? Because I know that I can compare dollars.
Totally.
But now we go back to case studies and best practices. And now you're looking at, they did this for so-and-so. Now you're starting to go and paint a picture of how it could be for them. And so everybody keeps telling me, well, this doesn't work because we need to do discovery calls. Those discovery calls will drive those demo calls, which sell. But what I'm telling you is it's not that complex. 80% of those discovery calls can be case studies. Best practices. This is who we work the best with. And it also drives margins. When you're repeating processes, you get better. Have you ever had to cold call someone in the last year?
Have I needed to? No.
Yeah. Have you had to go and email someone cold in the last year?
No.
Have you had to reach out to someone on LinkedIn cold in the last year?
A couple times, but...
Does it get easier the more you do it?
Of course.
And it's just that pattern recognition.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many people want to add complexity where it's not paid for. If it doesn't add to the customer, you're not going to recoup cost. It's just cost.
Totally. And especially if it always depends on your product and the margin on the product, etc. However, if you are investing that much time on the front end, in terms of your staff expenses, compensation, on top of whatever marketing activities, your direct response or direct marketing activities you're doing, that you can measure your cost of acquisition per lead or cost of acquisition per customer or qualified opportunity. There is a very high chance that you're not going to recoup your money. And if you're not recouping your money at $10,000 a sale and you want to scale at $10,000 a sale, you're not going to make money when you have $1 million, $10 million of revenue. It's just, your margins don't exist underneath the current way of doing business, because you're always going to have to fatten up your sales team if the way you sell relies on your sales team.
But only if you can afford to float it for long enough for it to work.
So true. So true.
So now we add in timelines.
Yes.
So when we use the digital first and these self-serve portals, and we're looking at what we could do to nurture the process without directly, like a direct touch point, it reduces the sales cycle. So the cost of acquisition drops, but we're also getting paid faster. And so we're talking about like doing all these things. Well, I can't afford it. You can't afford it because it's taking you anywhere from, I talked to companies that their average sales cycle is 3 months on the good end, but there's some that are well over a year. And then you look at how they're facilitating it, and they're taking 5, 6, 8, 10 meetings and they can't get a hold of the right stakeholders at the start, so they're also chasing, and then they play telephone. They're trying to recorrect the information because everybody diagnosed it a little bit differently, and now they're going to get a second opinion, and now they're trying to go and dissect which opinions make more sense for their use case. And you see how this gets overwhelming. Well, how much does that cost? And how much does it cost that company that you're working with? Because if they get overwhelmed, have you ever been in a store where you couldn't make a decision because it wasn't clear because they had too many options?
So
like I went to go buy shoes the other day, and I was looking at like the different, back when I used to go and buy stuff for sports, you'd have 3, maybe 4 options, and it was almost like brand affiliation that would kind of drive more than anything else, right? And the fact if you could afford it or not. But now it's like you walk into Sport Check or any of these stores and you walk out because if you didn't do your research coming in, you're just going to get overwhelmed, and nobody likes feeling stupid.
No. Well, and the other crucial point, which I don't think we should gloss over, is if your average sales cycle is 3 months to 6 months, that means they reached out to you. They were ready to talk to you at that starting point. And then it's an additional 3 months on top of that. How much time was spent up front trying to promote your brand and get awareness in the marketplace and deliver value and demonstrate advantage so that they would reach out to you? And now you're just going to extend the process because you can, or because it's some complex thing that you can't figure out how to package correctly or package simply enough that they can buy at least some of it, if not the whole custom, to your point, like getting your suit tailored. Even if it's not the entire tailored experience, can you get them started somewhere? Like most of your brand marketing, which is not direct response marketing or not measurable, directly attributable or measurable ROI, all of your brand marketing is going to help drive people to whatever assets you have out in the world. It could be a podcast, a YouTube show, could be your website, could be sales collateral or case studies or whatever. They're spending all of that time already trying to become an informed buyer. And now, after they reach out to your company, you're also going to drag them along for another 3 to 6 months?
Well, Morgan, it depends.
Right. Sorry. It depends. Gosh, what a catchphrase.
I was talking to a landscape designer, and they were saying, well, they can't do package pricing because the scope changes. I was like, but what's your minimum threshold for a buyer?
Yeah.
What is the smallest project that's profitable and is an actual benefit to the buyer?
Right.
And are you designing it for free?
Yeah.
Or is there a set design fee?
Right.
And this is where you got to look at what are they actually buying. I want to go and have the most beautiful house on the block to make my neighbors jealous. Could be that superficial. Or I want to go and increase my property value so that I'm getting my money out of my investment. That's what they're buying. They're not buying the complexity and all the other bullshit. They're buying a very simple thing. It's like the old thing. Nobody goes and buys a nail or a hammer.
Right.
They just need to attach something.
Yep. Yeah, they want to put up the shelf on the wall that they can have their nice memories on. That's actually why they're buying the screws.
Simple. Simple beats clever every time.
Totally.
And this is where I'm seeing things fall apart, is that we're overcomplicating simple things. If it takes a prescription to buy what you offer, like you have to do an assessment, you still have to sell the service. It's a packaged service. If the pricing changes, there's still a minimum that you should be holding to.
Right.
Where it becomes worthwhile for both parties. And you should be able to say no under that because it's not profitable. Yeah, you can make exceptions, but you can still sell that on a website. You can still do band pricing. I know a lot of people say, well, I just don't want to go and shoot myself in the foot and it be more or less. But that shouldn't be it. It should be a minimum for, say, the design in their case. And there should be an average spend.
Yes.
We see customers spend anywhere from $25,000 to $500,000 with us, depending on the scope of work. That is why we always start with a design, and the design is X.
I feel like a lot of companies, I think there are 2 reasons, and I'd like your feedback on this, that companies don't do that. And I think one is they don't understand their audience well enough to be confident to put that pricing out on a website. And that's because they're willing to sell to anyone, at least anyone in the general industry, right? Like targeting all women aged 25 to 40 is not a target audience, okay? And even targeting something a little more narrow on a demographic sense is hardly an actual target audience. So if you're unwilling to put your pricing on your website because you feel or fear that somebody's going to come to the site and be dissuaded by the price, and that could be a sale we have, that's because you don't understand the audience that you're actually trying to sell to. And I think complementary to that, number two, which is related, is there is not a fundamental sense of what is our margin on a package of a product, right? Like, oh, great, we sold $60,000 worth of services, or we sold $120,000 worth of services. There's no internal discipline or knowledge from the principals or from the vice president level of a company of what that actually means for the profitable bottom line, because they've been caught up maybe in customizing X, Y, and Z for every single person, that your margin gets lost in the mix. So you're not confident enough to say, yes, we only do projects at least at $20,000 or at least at $50,000, because that's the only way we can make money in our current system. And as you point out, there can of course be exceptions, but the point is they're exceptions. And if somebody wants an exception, they'll probably ask you.
Yep. And a lot of executives just don't understand marketing.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other day.
And they take a greedy approach to it. And marketing doesn't understand selling. That's why it doesn't transact. If marketing had a better understanding of the sales process, a lot of it can be automated. That's why HubSpot, Salesforce, Close.com, and a lot of these more robust CRM solutions are starting to take off, because they're just conversations. But if you can go and tailor those conversations and time them properly, where people are getting the information they need when they need it, you can take that across. Like video now. If you're sending out videos to go and inform buyers, and they can take that and like take the technical specs and they can share it amongst their buying team, how is that not going to win you more business? Now you're not playing telephone. Now they're hearing it from the source. And it's also easy to share. Also, with everything going to a virtual environment, most of the process is asynchronous.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Nobody's talking about this enough.
Let's talk about it.
If I interrupt you with a cold call or an email and book a time to have a good conversation, you're ready. You might be one of 8 people that I need to talk to for you to buy and make this larger buying decision. So now I got to get all this information, do a fact gathering, and send it out. But that's one person. It's not realistic to get all those people in a room anymore. And the way people are buying has changed, and the roles of the buying have changed. So if we start sending out videos and we're building these like e-commerce platforms where it's learning first, and it's looking at buyer enablement and understanding what tasks need to be required, or what tasks are required to actually buy, and we support them on that, then to me, sales is moving to more of that like consultative, like they're more consultants, or like they're like a doctor prescribing, but they're also the workhorse that is helping enable that buyer by working through different things. They'll help them with those tasks.
Do you see that as sort of like a blended account executive salesperson, or is that role differentiation even useful anymore?
I don't honestly think you need to differentiate. I think it's just like more of a customer success.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because just to reinforce what you said, one thing that came up to my mind is that if your buyers are searching for your products, or let's say the keywords you're targeting because you have some sort of content strategy, and they encounter your content, it is marketing's job, I believe, to make sure that that customer, that future customer, is well prepared by the point that they hit the buying decision, the contact decision, that they can buy, right? And that could even be an e-commerce solution for B2B, or a digital first solution for B2B, where they can buy something today for them because you know it's going to sell. But I also feel like there's not a lot of, or historically, the way it's always been done, is there's not a lot of discipline around that decision model, right? Because the decision model has been, talk to sales guy, right? But in COVID land and the results of COVID, COVID utopia. It's not a utopia. Is there another
utopia?
It's more like a hellscape. But as a result of COVID, everything has moved digital, and so much has moved asynchronous. And if you're not prepared to invest in those systems that are asynchronous, that are video, let's say buyer enablements, or other sorts of assets in the marketing sales blended process now, you're going to be behind in 3 years when everybody else is doing it. That's the other thing I think about a lot is what is being popular today that's like just starting out, that's going to have traction or is having traction today. When that becomes competitive and the process becomes mature, and I feel like chatbots are maybe in that direction, the video enabled sales processes in that direction. I mean, social media, most of the platforms are mature, but there's like new upstarts every once in a while, or a new way to do things that get really top tier results. Eventually those things are going to mature, and there's going to be a whole lot of competition that are doing it. But if you can demonstrate your advantage, one of those core 3 elements of your brand, now you can build that trust value advantage cycle in the long run. So by the time your competition catches up to you in the way you're doing business, which is modern, it's asynchronous, it's digital first, they're going to be left in the dust because you've captured all of the potential market.
And even if you argue value-based and relationship-based, that's not a good enough excuse now, because who would you rather go and trust? The person that you've been listening to at their podcast or their LinkedIn or whatever medium, or they've been, supporting you in a Slack channel for the past 2 years, or the salesperson that's been super helpful, that got to your problem, found a problem we're solving, and like walked you through this process, and has been honestly like the greatest salesperson you've ever worked with, but you've only known them for less than a month.
Yeah, 100%
Honestly,
the brand for 2 years. Yeah.
But this is the thing that people aren't considering, as the reality that we live in is we now trust people we meet online.
Yeah.
We now trust brands that we've never interacted with outside of our home office or on our mobile phone.
We do meet strangers on the internet. You remember all those campaigns back in the day? Don't trust a stranger you meet on the internet.
Yeah, don't talk to them and don't get into people's cars you don't know, and yet they made a company around it.
Oh, our digital enabled world has really turned the tables on some of that.
But even that, look at that. So you have a stranger that's been vetted by a company that you trust to get you where you need to go, to fill that void.
And that's also why a lot of the controversy of those cases with drivers where things went horribly wrong, disastrously, and there were many tragedies involved that really hurt the brand. It has nothing to do with the fact that Uber software, faulted or whatever. It was a problem that their systems didn't address, and it hurt the brand. And not that there's a one-to-one to the problems that Uber has with other brands, or at least let's hope not, right? But if you are establishing a brand in the marketplace and you're building trust with particular people, it's not that hard to ruin it.
It was a simple brand promise. They were going to get you safely where you needed to go.
Yes, and then people
when you needed to go.
Yeah, and if your marketing and sales process and your systems, especially your delivery, we haven't even talked about the back end yet today, about actually delivering what you promised, isn't up to what your marketing and sales promised, there's also going to be a disjointed experience from the customer. I see this a lot in the creative world where, they'll promise a brand new, sexy brand. We'll do your visual style guide. We'll do your font choices. We'll do messaging, positioning, audience. Here's all of our social credits. Here's all of our proof of the brands that we've worked with. And then what happens? And I've seen this happen with too many clients. This is why it's too close to home. You know what happens? They deliver the brand document and it's sort of meh. And the thing that they think about, and this is about value, this is about trust, right? The thing they think about is, was it really worth that much?
Did it give me an advantage?
Yeah. Is this actually what I paid for? And just to say, your brand is not just about, are you in a Slack channel? It's about your entire product and whether it solves a problem effectively for your future customers or for your current customers, even to get them to come back and buy from you again when the time is right, especially if you're not selling some sort of subscription service or subscription software. If you are selling a service that they only need in certain times, you want them to call you, not your competition or a Google search, right?
Well, I think of an M&A advisor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that are really well known. Did they get that business because of their paid ads? Did they get that business because they had a great website?
No.
But these are the questions that nobody's asking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, like, I go back to your sales team should not be selling anything under 50K because it's not cost effective and you're not focused where the market is going. And so this is less about that it's just, a faux pas in sales to go and be selling at that range. It's more that's the modern sales is actually getting picked up by marketing. And if you start small, then you work up to a more robust solution because you can actually map it out. Like if you look at the world of hybrid 3.0, we're now talking to AI and machine learning more than we ever have in the past. And it's actually pretty seamless.
Yep.
Well, how can that not be a sales process?
Right.
Google, we have conversations with Google every day and it gets us where we need to go.
Yep.
Why can't you do that with your website with an audience and a buyer you know better than anyone else?
Mm-hmm.
But
And the
so
cost
many
curve
companies are just paying and investing to pump out promotions. They're not paying and investing into knowing their customers better than anyone else. When I sit, it was mind-blowing to go and sit in some of these Slack channels and hear the questions that people are asking and hear the struggles that they're going through. And I'm realizing these struggles aren't sales problems. We just don't have it. We can't hit quota. Well, their quota was they wanted to go and executive team wanted to grow by 200%. And so they reverse engineered that. They're up, 60, 70% for the year, yet not one salesperson has hit target.
Oh.
And this is where we go back to where I keep going back to sales shouldn't be doing this because it's all misaligned. It's misaligned for the people. It's misaligned for the data that drives the decisions. It's misaligned for the processes that people want and that drive efficiency and effectiveness. It is all offside. Yet we keep going back to these conversations because whether it's the research firms or the technology companies or whoever is pointing that this is a better way, just buy this and we'll fix it.
Technology is not a brand solution.
It's not.
It's not. I hate to break it to anybody listening, but technology is not a brand solution. And I think what I hear that you're saying that really stuck out to me is the modern organization, the modern company that does take advantage of this digital world we're in, that is asynchronous and everything else we've talked about so far, has an aligned marketing, sales, and service experience for their buyers that matches those buyers' expectations of how easy it should be to buy your darn product or service. And most, I would argue, in an ideal world for this company, most of that traffic that's going to be hitting that marketing, sales, and service experience is inbound because you're investing in your brand in ways that cannot be tracked and in ways that can be tracked, but in ways to promote your trusted position, the value you provide, your advantage. And that will take a while, but when it takes off, now you have this amazing experience aligned for your future customers that feels just unbelievably better than any of your competition. And not only does it reinforce the trust value advantage of buying with you, you get to close quicker. You hit your quota targets, you hit your revenue goals.
Only if you can tell the difference between the two different levels of inbound.
Okay. Yes.
Right? There's generic inbound where somebody just filled out a form and contacted you. And if you call them, they'll probably ghost you because they just wanted to go and get your gated content and they couldn't give a shit about your company.
And they're price shopping, right?
Price shopping. Yeah. They're holding somebody else accountable or keeping them honest.
Yep.
And then there's the one that seeks you out personally.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you delivered a keynote or you hosted an event that gave really great brand recognition and taught them that you were the person that they helped. Or they have a podcast that you've been we keep going back to these things, but these are how people build trust in 2021. And it's only going to change. LinkedIn is a huge asset right now. And I did not take it seriously enough up until this year.
Same, 100%.
And video is only getting more important. That's why I love these shows and the tools that you can go and splice it up and go and make it more digestible for people. But these are all things that more companies need to be doing instead of focusing on generic inbound. And that's where they're spending their money, is how do we get more generic inbound? Yes, you have to go and spend the money to go and hit short-term goals.
Sure.
You have to. But sales does not need to be always your default source, or you're going to burn out your salespeople. Also, I don't want to say that you should ignore people under 50K. That is not what I'm saying.
Right. That's actually a crucial point. We should stay here a little while.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that I should have brought this up earlier, but a lot of people, so you should just ignore them and let an incumbent come in and go and, eat our lunch because we went and slept on these smaller accounts that weren't worth our while. No. And when I say that, what do you think, Morgan? What's going when I say we're not going to go and get the salespeople in under a certain amount?
Yeah.
And we're giving it to marketing. What in your mind, what does that process look like?
I mean, to me, it immediately speaks of an intentionally curated and designed buying experience that you know your customers well enough to have the right things delivered at the right time. And your salesperson is the person helping either navigate the sale or close, right? Like that's it. Or navigate the sale and close, I guess. And if your marketing function, your marketing teams can deliver not just generic inbound, but let's say, what was the more particular term? I liked what you're using. There's two types of inbound, generic and
specific.
So, okay, yeah.
I may have said something else. I don't know.
Okay, so specific inbound, but personal outreach, personal inbound.
Yeah. Did you create a special term that you coined?
You're like, I don't know, just riffing on it. But if you have specific inbound, that's basically a result of your brand marketing that is not trackable, right? If you're doing brand marketing, the definition of brand marketing is it is not trackable. So they just learned about you, followed you, got to know what your content you're putting out in the world, and they reach out to you. You have something set up for them from your marketing function, which means your website. It's the content you're putting out. It's the ways you're enabling the buying experience so that individual buyer, let's say you're selling to larger organizations and you have a multi-stakeholder sale where you need the buy-in of 4, 5, 8 different people in an organization to sell to them. You have all of those materials ready for that person to buy, because the way you're thinking, and what this really came to me, the way you're thinking about your marketing is not to juice your numbers. Yeah. The way you're thinking about your marketing is the way to build your brand. And that takes time, of course.
Trust, value, advantage.
Trust, value, and advantage.
Be clear on it. Yeah. And invest in each one of those buckets, not just one.
Yeah, and that's true whether they're buying something. Let's say your lowest sale is $10,000 or $5,000. That's true when they're buying something from you for $5,000 or $10,000, and it's also true when they're buying something from you for $500,000. It just happens that the experience you've curated for those that are executing a $250,000 or a $500,000 sale with you is different, and perhaps more sales involved. Salesperson involved than the people who are buying $5,000 to $10,000 from you, because those
questions,
exactly, those sales are probably a lot easier to execute on.
Yeah, they're different conversations, and this is the thing that drives me nuts: is nobody's talking about this. Our whole job should be to spur or activate conversations, and if we're not creating these conversations or respecting the different conversations we have at different points, why would they choose us over someone else? Because I will pick the company. Like, I went to go buy shoes the other day. I keep going back to because it was just a great example.
It's a great example.
And there was a bunch of hidden fees, and it pissed me off. And I will never go back to that brand again because they burnt my trust.
Yep.
And I went to another one that I knew was going to be okay, and I wasn't sure if it would be the best product, but their process was so seamless. They gave me extra information. They made it hard not to buy because it was so good.
Yeah.
And then you know what I didn't? I bought it and I'm like, I thought I was gonna have buyer's remorse.
Oh yes,
because I
of
kind of
course.
got walked in, right? And
yeah.
all I was worried about was like, man, I wish I could get this sooner because I just
Yeah.
want to try it. But this is where the opportunity for B2B is coming. B2B needs to look at these luxury retailers and copycat. B2C is 10 or 15 years ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
But none of this is kept pulling over because B2B will not do brand marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll only do lead gen because lead gen's trackable.
Yes. And I would contend the other reason that they're not doing the digital first solution is not just because they're not investing in brand marketing. It is because they are hiding behind the excuse that their product is too complex. And it's just time to abandon that. Even if you have a really complex solution, I guarantee you can package something for a particular kind of buyer that can buy from you.
TikTok's complex. Have you ever seen their editing now?
Oh gosh.
You want to talk about something? You're shooting a video that's, you're following trends, adding in music, dancing, or delivering some type of information, and it is the dizzying how overwhelming it is when you get started. It's the reason why I'm not posting right now.
And same thing with like Reels. Obviously, there's a lot of copycat content, but there's even tutorials of like the little video apps that they now use. And it's like, here's how to align this track with this specific music thing. And it's 0.2 seconds of video clip. And then you have like a 0.5 second black screen. And it's very complicated. But the point, this is actually a good example I sort of stumbled into. This is not planned, Nick, is that those tutorials exist. They're enabling the person to use the service in a way that makes them feel. And the big part of Reels and TikTok is that you're like a part of the trends. So the way that they're enabling the emotional side of the sale, the benefit to the prospective customer or the future customer, is that they're able to participate in the ecosystem. That's the point of that sort of buyer enablement material. Same can go for your company, right? If you know what sort of benefits your buyers are looking for, not features, benefits, of course, the classic, dilemma or differentiation. What the things that they're actually looking for, it's not a dilemma.
Thank you for that clarification. It was so beneficial.
You're welcome, Nick. I'm glad that we have differentiation and not dilemmas on the notes around here. When you can differentiate those two and you really get grounded on the sorts of benefits, all of your buyer enablement material can be focused on those specific benefits. And it's, it could be peace of mind focused stuff. There's all sorts of benefits depending on the specific sort of buyer you're looking for, or enabling their own revenue goals using the service or products that you provide. When you can get clear on that, your entire experience gets so seamless.
I was going to say simple.
Oh, and so simple. It's such a good observation.
If I could go in, do a quick little recap.
Yes.
And I think we should go and do a recap quick, but we should also go and talk about what this should look like.
Yes.
I think that's really critical.
Let's wrap up with that.
Selling under whatever your threshold is, you should go and look at the economics of it. At a certain point, bringing salespeople in is not cost effective. It drags out the process, and it's not the way that buyers want to buy. That's the 3 things you need to know. Anything else, there's other important factors, but that is all you need to know. Sorry for wasting an hour. No, just kidding.
Yeah, it's hey, wait, could we have simplified this to 15 minutes instead of a power hour? No, I don't think so.
No, but I'll definitely go and edit that, and I'll put it into a short video for everyone.
Cool.
But the thing that and actually, funny enough, I'm starting to really like Chili Piper.
Oh, yes.
I'm starting to really understand their value prop.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to jump on a lead fast?
Is it because they're ready?
But they have a question.
Even better.
I keep going back to my retail storefront clothing example.
Right.
Why are they reaching out to you?
You might have a question.
They have a technical question. That means they're ready to buy, but they just have one thing that's in the way.
Mm-hmm. The final obstacle to the sale. But
look, think if you tracked all of those questions and had a robust FAQ and then enabled it with an AI like Heyday.
Mm-hmm. Or even just a simple search function on your site. Trust me, any web designer can put something like this together, which is a simple searchable library of questions that are most oftenly asked. So you don't have to scroll and like click each individual one to see if the hidden answer is in one of them. You just create a database, a library of things, you put in all your content there, and you add a little search on top of it. Any web developer could, if they have the content, could probably do that in just a couple of days. And that's with including populating the library with all of your content. And that's incredible enablement for the sale upfront.
So correct me if I'm wrong. This is where this kind of comes in, this whole 50K sales thing.
Yes.
Know your buyer. Whatever that takes, do your research, get in Slack channels, get in Facebook groups, go and play on LinkedIn, search, make friends, be an asset. Don't have to recreate your entire website. Create a really good landing page and really design it around the prospect experience. Be that key educational piece and start answering those questions in content. And so think that they're coming to this landing page ready. How would you walk them through that process? What does your discovery meeting look like? Are you doing some roles and goals? Are you going to go and do like an upfront contract? Because that can all be in a website. It doesn't have to be in a conversation. And then you can expect they're going to have questions at different points. If your service is complex, they'll have different technical aspects that they'll have to consider. Use a bot. Have a call to action to go and ask those questions. You could even give them drop downs, or you give them access to, use cases. Give them information that they need, and make it clear and make it simple. Don't give them too much. And then walk them through that process. And at the end, allow them to buy.
It's such a simple thing to say, but it is the most complicated thing to find.
And then just set up, like if they have questions, make sure that you're going to go and deliver on that promise, where if it's going to be a person, have hours. Have them respond quickly. If not, look at a chatbot, because now I think it's something like 80 or 90% of buyers are expecting customer service to be 24/7. And so just keep it small, keep it simple, respect the process, start great conversations, but do it at scale by knowing your buyer better than anyone else. It does not have to be perfect. This is the thing that I have never met a perfect salesperson. I've met a lot of really great salespeople that all have different styles, but at the end of the day, they just have good conversations that connect with their buyers. Your website can do that.
Totally.
And when you get to a certain point, they're going to want luxury. They are going to want that white glove service. And that's where the 50K really comes in, because now you become the consultant, the prescriber, the expert that walks in and handholds and provides that super beneficial guidance that gives way better return. But you can't do that if you're constantly selling $500,000. You're focused on the short term and you're constantly struggling. This is modern sales. This is the world we live in. People are demanding digital first, self-serve options with virtual access to virtual salespeople. Isn't it time that we stepped up to that?
It is definitely time, Nicholas.
Time for coffee?
I mean, I'm not opposed, but definitely time to modernize your sales and marketing infrastructure.
Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up for the day? Because I just noticed that we're getting real close to that.
We're getting real close to the hour. I think the last thing I'd like to say and state is that, and there's a lot of dimensions to the marketing function here, but it is important to recontextualize and reconceptualize your marketing team, less as a direct response vehicle, a number juicer, a lead generator, right? Somebody who goes and runs ads and does promotion and generates content so that people can reach out to your sales team. It is an entire rewiring of your marketing, your sales, and your service experience, because the point is to enhance your brand. Brands are going to win. Brands are winning anyways, but your brand can win, and it can do so without your sales or with your sales team not selling anything under $50,000. I certainly agree with you on that.
That's a wrap.
Thank you everyone for joining this morning. Nick, this has been a lovely conversation as always. And I believe you have a couple coming up next week. I'm out of town for the next week, but I'll be back on as the other co-host after that.
You guys will see some new faces next week. It'll be announced a little bit later today, maybe tomorrow. Depends on how much time I can steal of Morgan to go do some work with me. Thank you so much. Please, follow, ask us questions if you have any. We really appreciate it. And the more questions we get and the more feedback we get, the better it gets for you. So thank you for tuning in, and can't wait to see you next week.
Bye.
Take care.